Hello everybody. Today I'd like to make a video about my study patterns for learning foreign languages. A couple months ago I tried to make, about a month ago or so, I tried to make a video about my study patterns for languages, but I ran out of power for my camera battery and I wasn't really able to make a good video any other way, and so I just kind of put it off for a while. But now that I have chargers for my battery, I can actually make videos now, and hopefully I'll be able to be a little more involved with the other people on YouTube who study languages. But it's kind of funny because my study patterns have changed dramatically compared to last time I tried to make a video but didn't end up putting it up. But here's a more updated version of my study patterns. The last time I tried to make a video, I was introducing 3 different principles about studying languages. The first principle was memorizing words from vocabulary lists. The second was listening to things on like an MP3 player throughout the day, for example. And the third one was talking to native speakers over either in person or over Skype regularly, preferably every day. But let's see, one thing I really changed from this time was the memorization part. I used to memorize lists, and I used to sit there for an hour just memorizing words, and it was a lot of work and it was pretty boring. But I've recently found another way to do this, and I'm sure I'll change the way I do it later on when I find something better, and that's bound to happen. That always happens. You find something better, a better way to do things. But what I do now, instead of memorizing, is I'll put it into what was it called? I'll put it into learning with texts, and I'll write down a little list of all the new words that I'm learning that day that are from the text that I'm listening to that day, and I'll just kind of have the words in mind. I'll think of little ways to remember the words, but I won't sit and memorize. I won't go through the list and keep going until I can, translate each one of the words. The most important part in the memorization is just coming up with a way that you can recognize the word when you hear it in the text. And I'll listen to the text over and over again throughout the day, and my goal is by the end of the day to be able to remember those new words from the text. And so I'll go into a little bit of detail about how I normally accomplish each of these 3 principles. For the first one, memorization, pretty much like I said, what I changed from my old method. For memorization, I take it one text at a time. I either get a text from a book. Let's say, for example, this book. It's not a very good example, but it's because this is a book of texts, not an actual lesson kind of book. But for example, if this was the first lesson, I would go through it and I would type all of it and put it into learning with text. That takes a little while, but I think ultimately it's worth putting it into learning with text, especially since later on it'll have all the words I've learned saved and counted, and I can keep putting in different texts. But I'll type it all up and put it into learning with texts, and then if you know how learning with text work, you save all the words that are new for you, and you assign a translation for them, and well, that's kind of a different thing. You can go explore that if if you desire. But this memorization, I don't really memorize. I just kind of think of a quick way to remember the words. Write all the new words down onto a little piece of paper that I carry throughout the day with me. And that's all I do for the memorization. Just write them down on a piece of paper and keep in my mind, keep looking for the words as I listen. And that's all I do for memorization. For listening, what I do is if the text actually comes with an audio file of a native speaker reading the text, then that's convenient. But if it doesn't come with a very good or any recording at all, you can just kind of do it yourself. If you have the phonology and the pronunciation down, you can do it yourself, and it'll be good enough. And yeah, just listen throughout the day and look for the new words for that day that are in the text. And yeah, that's how I do the listening. And a third, speaking with native speakers, I haven't really done that lately because right now I'm studying Finnish and I don't know quite enough Finnish to really be able to understand what they're saying. I know some people like to make sure they practice from the very beginning. I probably would if there were more Finnish-speaking people on Shared Talk or italki, places like that. If there were more Finnish people, then I would probably try more. But I haven't really been able to find many people, so that would be kind of difficult for Finnish. But so I might only make it to intermediate level. But if I do find some people that I can talk to every day, then I'll go for the fluent level. But otherwise, intermediate will be good enough. But the way I normally go about looking for these people is on a website called Shared Talk, and I'll put a few links underneath this video so that you can find these websites and use these sources. These are sources I would have never found if someone didn't show them to me, and they're really good tools for studying languages. So on Shared Talk, you can search for people you sign up and then you can search for people by their language, by what language they're studying, etc. Or you can just go to the chat room. They have a really big chat room, and everybody is all there's a list of people. It shows what language they speak, where they come from, how old they are, and what language they're learning, things like that. And you can go on there and you can search for someone, like for example, if I'm learning Finnish and I speak English, then I go in there and I click the tab that organizes them all by what language they speak. I look for Finnish. Maybe there's someone who speaks Finnish who's studying English, and I'll talk to them. Normally I would try to add them to Skype so that I can find them later, because they might not always be on Shared Talk, and a lot of these people do have Skype. There's also a voice chat. You can do the same thing. There's less people in the voice chat, but they're more likely to have Skype, and because the people in the text chat, they might not even have a microphone at all. But yeah, so I'll try to build up a pool of people that are willing to practice with you in Skype, and have them all saved in Skype, and so that you just go on Skype and you can find someone to practice with. But yeah, that's how I study languages for now. It might change. In summary, I use learning with texts to highlight new words for each text, and I work on the language one text at a time. And I write down these words on a little list of new words for that text. Second principle, I listen throughout the day to the text of the day and look for the new words. And third, if possible, practice with native speakers over Skype or any other way over a voice conversation. But thanks for listening. I hope